Hello and welcome to Literary Vulture. My name is Asher Gray. My pronouns are they, them. And this is a post-mortem on all of my October reads. I am going to start with this one, which I'm putting in October because it's the beginning of November and I just finished it. So like started it in October, barely didn't finish it in October, so we're counting it. All of Us Murderers by K.J. Charles. This one I'm giving a 4. I think I'm giving a 4-star. I thought it was a really fun book to read. The cons are that it was really unclear what era this was supposed to be because it was written in a way that made me feel like maybe K.J. Charles wanted it to sound and feel Sherlock Holmesian, which I love. That's totally a bop and a vibe. But then there would be sporadic, super modern words, like calling people unhinged, for example. So it was really unclear. Some of the speech patterns were vaguely historic, some of the descriptions were vaguely YA, and so I was just kind of like unsure what century I was supposed to be in. But it didn't ruin the book for me by any stretch of the imagination. I was able to get past that by basically categorizing it as potato chips. I don't go to potato chips for nutritional value, and I didn't go to this book for literary epiphany. I wanted a fun, yummy, good time that was not super demanding on the brain to get through. I wanted some little queer angels to see some ghosts, and it was exactly that. And by the way, this is not a spoiler-free channel. Just so you know, I will be talking about the plots. So if you care about that, I have a vlog. No spoilers in the vlog. This book, like, the description of this book gave me the impression that it was going to be haunting, ghost type activity and like haunted house vibes. And it wasn't. It ended to where it was basically like drugging induced paranoia for a lot of them, and on top of the drug situation, the person who was people who were responsible for all of the spookiness and the deaths and all of that stuff were using their kind of drug-addled mind combined with the sins of their past and this book that had been written about the house that they were in, all combined to manipulate these people into committing murders that the actual responsible parties wanted them to commit. Super fun premise, and I do think they pulled it off. Maybe it's just me, but I thought it was pretty advertised as a ghost situation, a paranormally haunted housey situation. And with that being the case, there were like no characters who believed in ghosts, and so the payoff of it actually being people doing the spooky things wasn't very strong because Zeb, the lead, Gideon, the other lead, every single member of the house for the most part, barring the people that were involved, none of them believed in ghosts, and all of them were like, there's a logical explanation. I think I would have personally preferred, I think I wanted to be immersed in the house and in what was going on, and I wanted to be concerned and confused and creeped out and wondering who was doing what. At least 2 of the people that were directly involved in the deaths, I pretty much guessed right out of the gate were involved in the deaths. Take that with a grain of salt because I got mad pattern recognition skills. But still, I would have wanted to feel strung along in the haunting of it all, so that when it's revealed that basically all of the staff are conspiring to make this happen, there's a mic drop moment of like, holy fucking shit, you guys pulled off something really cool and believable. Instead, it was everybody being like, this is people, and then in the end, it was. However, I loved Zeb and Gideon, the 2 main characters that we're kind of following. I loved the feminist angle. I loved the focus on how truly shit cis men who date women are. There was a moment of disappointment in Zeb where I felt like potentially what was happening was a little bit enabling some disgusting cis male behavior. And when I say cis males, I am specifically talking about cis males who date women or feminine presenting people. I know that a lot of people have exclusionary considerations for any cis man that falls under any type of queer. I don't. I do think their finger is more on the pulse of oppression for sure, but in my experience and what I have witnessed, I'm not going to say that bisexual, pansexual, fill in the blank men who in that category are attracted to women or who date feminine presenting people in any way. I don't actually see them treating women or viewing women with significant enough more respect than a straight man would. So when I say cis men and I'm dogging on them, I am talking about any cis man that dates women or feminine presenting people specifically. But I'm not going to say that whole sentence the whole time, so there's your disclaimer. At the end, there was a point where Zeb was rushing to help his brother who had presumably murdered his wife, definitely SA'd, full-on problematic behavior, to put it extremely lightly. Some women in the past and some women in the house. And Zeb basically wanted to save his brother due to the argument that he seemed sorry and could improve. And that didn't pan out, which is why this was almost like 3.5. Like that really almost took it all very far down for me. I'm sure the author's goal, it seemed clear to me that the author's goal was just to reiterate how soft and kind and compassionate Zeb is as a character. I do think that it's a very common, like in life and in books, a very common thing to conflate enabling with compassion, and I was really concerned this was doing that, and I do think it did a little bit, but the fact that his brother Bram, however you'd like to say that, did end up getting consequences, and Zeb ended up learning like, oh, I shouldn't have put my faith in this guy, like that was really stupid. I should have listened to Gideon about how bullshit this man is, despite the fact that he's related to me. Sorry is not enough. He kind of learned something from that happening. So it was a little bit remedied for me personally, which brought it back up to a 4. And then I think my last con with it was a lot of content occurred in the epilogue that I actually thought would be incredibly interesting to read as a part of the book and as a part of the chapters. I think that KG Charles was mostly focused on the relationship between Zeb and Gideon and how what was happening either developed or impacted that. And so much of that was centered around Zeb and Gideon needing to escape what was happening that took focus of the plot more than the goings on in the house. And that's a fair choice. It's just a preference thing on the part of the author and on the part of myself, where I would have liked to see, you only really witness one of the killings. The rest of them die, but one is just kind of, you presume that they're dead because Zeb presumes that they're dead, and it starts the ball rolling with like, there's something crazy going on here. The next is Elise, which is the spouse of Bram, who is the lead character, Zeb's brother, who did in fact end up murdering his wife and blaming the fact that she's dead on the wife, which was peak cis man behavior. Love the call out and representation on that shit, because that do be happening. Barring those two, the rest of the deaths happen in the epilogue, and it's like, by the way, this person was found to have jumped off the roof. This person was found shot. This person, like, it just kind of said, oh, by the way, after these two escaped, all of these people also died, and here's how. I felt it could have been more strongly communicated. And then also at the very last second, it got crazy modern with like references to Goodreads and stuff like that I just felt was maybe a little indulgent on the part of the author, like making themselves giggle, which there's no sin to be found in doing that, but like I would have preferred to have stayed grounded in the story from start to finish. Obviously I gave it a 4 stars, so it was not story ruining for me. The next book was the least banger of all. I think I gave it like 2 stars, maybe, possibly 3, which was disappointing because this publisher, it is my favorite thing to read. If you've never heard of Dandelion Press, please check out Dandelion Press. Here, I'll just read what they do. Dandelion Press unearths lost literary gems written by women and weirdos in the very long 19th century. We resurrect these special stories, pair them with contemporary introductions, and offer our readers totally cute books of historic merit. This edition of the Morgesons includes a visual glossary, a compendium of 96 unique images illustrating a forgotten past populated by visionaries, oddballs, and pioneers. Open carefully. Which is true, because I moved and it didn't survive the move. These are the most beautiful, like visually stunning, perfect size, amazing textured books. This one's out right now, but it's one of those where when you put them all together, it like looks very beautiful. They connect and they make pictures, and it's wonderful. I love them visually. They do have, not that you can see based on what I did, but yeah, they have pictures and historical information about the authors, and it is so incredibly interesting and inspiring in so many ways to me to read something written by a woman from that long ago, and just the fact that women are still experiencing the same stuff, fighting very similar, if not the same battles that they were in the 1800s, 1900s in some of these cases. Like, some of them I think are from the 1700s potentially. Don't quote me on that. Anyway, I am so in love with Dandelion Press. They are tiny, they are New York based, they release very temporarily, so you have to kind of get them while they're hot, and I recommend it so much as a publisher. Love what they do. The Morgesons specifically, I didn't like it at all, and that's purely taste. I can see why it was a super big deal at the time. A woman told her life story, and basically the story was, me and my sister are fucking weird, and here's all the ways in which that showed up in our lives. And objectively, that's very interesting. For me, it went on way too long, and it personally wasn't a premise that compelled me, simply because it's a product of its time, in that if this were just a story and this weren't largely someone's actual life, she was one of those little kids that like was supposed to get married and was supposed to fall in line and didn't want to do those things. She wanted to write. She wanted to she had all these aspirations, and of course marriage was the only thing she was supposed to want. And her sister was just an all-out freak, and I totally always mean freak as a compliment. I love a freak so much. I identify as a freak myself. Her sister was a freak. She was a freak. Her mom was kind of an interesting specimen, mental health wise, and just as a parent, just a lot of yeah, she had an interesting and odd life, especially for the time. It's just that, of course she grew up and she did get married, and it wasn't great, and just stuff that was like, oh, just stop marrying men, just stop marrying cisgender men. And of course at the time, what was she gonna do, marry a trans man? Of course not. Probably couldn't even find one at the time, in her locale. I respect this book's place in history. Objectively, very good book. Probably. But because it's so not my taste, and because it's just so old that it's to no fault of its own, kind of a tale as old as time at this point, it was really hard for me to focus on it, because it was just familiar. It was like, yeah, we get it. I'm gonna read so many hundreds of pages of this woman marrying a piece of shit anyway, because he's less of a piece of shit than that other guy. And it just kind of made me sad and frustrated. Sad for her and for women of the past, and honestly a little frustrated at women of the present, because it is completely the fault of the cis man that women are oppressed. 100%. It does, however, also confuse me. Why are you still giving them chances? Why are women dating cis men? Why are people who, to the world, you're gonna she, her, me if you don't ask, you know? Why are those people continuing to date cis men and give them chances? It doesn't make any sense to me, especially when the result is often that they're lonelier and less happy with them. It's just that society is giving them a little clap because they're not alone. I love being alone, and I'm a lesbian, so I have a lot of advantages where there would be no upside for me. The cis women and feminine appearing people in those relationships all think their man is better than the other man. Well, I'm lucky because I found Todd. Guess what? Give me 20 minutes with Todd. Give me 20 minutes watching you interact with Todd. Give a trans man 20 minutes alone with Todd when Todd does not know that's a trans man who will report back to your partner. Needless to say, it frustrated me that, like, I don't want to read this, put this many hours, this many words, this many pages into an ending that I'm watching play out in real time all the time. That is also frustrating me in real life. So, like, good for you. You found one less bad than that guy. Still not as good as being single or with a woman or genderqueer person or anyone who actually views women as equal. Anyway, it was just a personal thing for me. Clearly, I'm a person of strong opinions and pretty unpopular ones because God forbid someone have as harsh of a view as cisgendered men as they do of every single person who's not them. Anyway, on to one that I really enjoyed a lot. The Face on the Milk Carton. I went to a banned book event and this was there, and the cover grabbed me and I really enjoyed it. Like, it's a quick, easy to digest little read. The text is even fairly, you'll get through it quick, you know? And when it finished, I was like, but I need more. Immediately had to go get the next two, but I really look forward to starting the next one, and actually that's on my mental list of what I want to read in November. So I will be getting to the next one, but this is a story about a little girl who sees her face on a milk carton and realizes that she had been kidnapped as a little kid and she has a family out there somewhere. And what I really loved about it was, yes, there was a developing plot that was happening, but so much of this book is just this person, this girl, Janie, trying to make sense of the fact that she has a different family, but she loves the one she grew up with. So just the amount of this that is internal dialogue, and that is a person that has experienced a traumatizing event, but who is literally experiencing it alone. Can't tell anybody. I know, but you can know, buddy. So much of this is just internal dialogue of a person who has had a really traumatic realization and who can't stop seeing evidence of that realization, even though she's trying really hard to dismiss it because she actually loves the family that kidnapped her and they're not abusive and they're not bad people, and she feels so lucky to have the family that she has. And then she realizes that this has happened to her, that these kind people who she loves so much are bad because they kidnapped her. And so it's this person going through that trauma and having to think about it and process it and decide what to do about it completely alone. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. And I think that it was done really well. Like, if anyone's ever been through something that they truly felt like they had to or did have to keep to themselves and process on their own and continue going to school, going to work, going to your friend's house, trying to appear normal in your own household and in your own friend groups, all the while just madly trying to process this unwell thing that has happened. I thought it was depicted really well, especially given the age of the lead. Honestly, wasn't sure why it was banned. Usually with banned books, you're like, got it, that's what y'all fuckers didn't want us to know. But with this one, I'm not exactly sure. So if you know what might have been weird about this to anyone, comment below it. Ooh, we're on to a good one. We're on to a really good one. Disappoint Me by Nicola Denan. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Not the best at pronunciation stuff. Disappoint Me. loved it. I loved it so much. I loved it so much. It was so dry in the best way. It was just the semi-nihilistic thoughts of a trans woman who's just trying to be kind of happy a little bit. And it was so good. Like, it's her dating, and it's often from her perspective. It then waffles between the perspective of our lead, Maxine, Maxie, Max, she goes by them all, and the guy that she ends up meeting like right away, which is Vincent. Number one thing that I loved was it was just a trans woman living her life. It was a was a transgender Chinese woman. On top of that, dating a Chinese cisgendered man, and was some of their life bigoted and tragic, because that's the life of a trans person, definitely. But it still wasn't a book that was trying to speak to cisgendered people, non-queer people, cishet people, rather than just giving queer community stories about us, you know? And that makes perfect sense. Like, we live in this constant state of feeling the need to justify our existence. So it makes sense that a lot of our art and literature would reflect that, or respond to that. This was just about a girl dating a guy and their lives. Vincent has a shitty motherfucking past with being personally transphobic, while also, of course, being attracted to women, and that included trans women. So he had been with a woman before. He aided and abetted, essentially, a hate crime committed against that trans woman named Alex by his best friend. And I think this didn't quite make 5 stars for me. I think it was like 4.75. Like, the whole book, this was 5 stars for me. I loved it. And then there was a moment at the end that was, by the way, written beautifully, and it's an acceptable perspective. For me, it gave me enough of the ick that it didn't make 5 stars, because basically Maxine loves this guy. She finds out only towards the end of the book, also while processing the fact that she is dying of a brain tumor. She finds out that Vincent has basically covered up this hate crime for his best friend, who he is still best friends with, and who he introduced her to and let her become friends with, knowing what he had done to a trans woman in the past. And basically Maxine was like, this is the plight of women, to either choose to forgive how vile cis men are, or to cut him off and stay single. And it leaves it open to interpretation, but with the vibe that she's gonna choose forgiveness. And I don't like that. I think it's problematic. And I know that's like not going to be popular. I'm so hesitant to talk about my opinions about cis men. I have very harsh, specific, and probably unpopular opinions. And I hope it's very clear, I am not putting any responsibility on women or feminine appearing people. I'm not saying there is any responsibility or blame or anything on us/them. But it's kind of like with trauma, where it's not your fault, but healing from it is now unfortunately and unfairly your responsibility. If a woman or someone who appears to be a woman, and they may be saying your pronouns, they see you as a girlfriend and they are proud of themselves for being woke enough to call you other pronouns. But I'm just saying, I've seen it a lot. And even though I'm a lesbian, so it hasn't been done to me in a romantic sense, I've had a lot of cisgendered male friends view me correctly because they called me my correct pronouns, but who absolutely clearly viewed me and treated me the way that they would view and treat a cisgendered woman. So I'm just saying, him using your pronouns doesn't deserve applause. Does he view you correctly as a genderqueer person? Does he view you as equal and or in many ways better than him if you're a woman? No. So to reward, because that's what it is when a genderqueer person or a woman dates a man, or sometimes even depending on the dynamic, allows them to be friends. When a woman or a feminine appearing human chooses to engage with a cisgendered man, that's rewarding whatever little effort he has put in order to ensure that that happens. And in the case of Vincent and Maxine, I didn't actually see him being sorry one time. When Maxine finds out about this and is angry, all he can say is that it was a long time ago, that it was a long time ago, that it was a long time ago. He never said it was wrong, he was sorry, that's disgusting. He doesn't even recognize that version of himself. Here's all the things he's done to become a better person. No, he aided and abetted a hate crime, briefly lost touch with that friend that actually committed the hate crime, ended up allowing himself to reconnect with that person to the point where they are still very best friends, seen as inseparable by anyone on the outside looking in. And until he met Maxine, he made no efforts whatsoever to become a better person. Then he wanted something, which was a relationship with Maxine. So he then thought, I better work on my transphobia because I want someone who is transgender, and working on it just meant dating her. Sorry, she's not for your growth. She's a person who exists who wanted to date you. That's it. And they were stoned when everybody found out about what happened. So I kept reading thinking like, they're gonna circle back to this, and when he's sober, it's gonna go back to his perspective and he's gonna be like, oh, I cannot believe I deferred like that, or I cannot believe I deflected like that. And it did circle back around to his perspective, but all he could think of was, I want Maxine back, I want Max back, I want Max back. So there was no point where he looked back and thought, I can't believe how I handled that. I can't believe I never directly showed remorse for my actions or presented Maxine with an out. There was no, I completely understand if you don't want to be with me anymore. There was no, here's what I've done to be different, here's what I will do to continue to be different. And this is not because I want to be with you. This is because the version of me that was okay with that is disgusting, and I don't want anything to do with it. That never happened, and it didn't happen for his best friend either. So there was the fact that there was a little implication at the end that was like, it's okay. It's okay that there is an option on the table to forgive him and move forward. No, women should not take responsibility. Lilith, what are you doing? My gecko is jumping around. Women should never, ever take responsibility for what a man has done. And they should never, ever, ever be forgiving a man who has yet to show that he's sorry. It just felt so enabling. It felt so enabling to be like, it is a strength for me as a trans woman to forgive a man who covered up a hate crime against another trans woman and is still friends with the person who committed it. That's not okay. So I, by the way, so recommend this book. I still gave it like 4.75 because I think it's an incredible book. And I also understand why she ended it so open-ended and with the forgiveness option. And I also thought the writing was genuinely stunning. Like, the writing was so, you can tell the author is a poet as well, you know? Like, it was simple but deep the whole time, and it was very, very authentic. And I think that unfortunately that is often the outcome women and feminine appearing people do end up with cis men, is usually they're having to take the L in order to make a shitty relationship work because it's less shitty than other ones. And that ain't cool, dude. Personally, I would like to see a sequel where Maxine comes into her own to such a degree that being authentic to herself and loving herself, even if it means being lonely, is preferable to not being alone and having to forgive atrocities. I would prefer a sequel where we dig a little bit deeper into that and she discovers some genuine self-pride and learns to not accept even a micro shit from people. You know, I'll say it 1,000 times in my life and I'll say it until you hate me because it's annoying how much I say it. Don't even kind of, sort of, a little bit settle at all. If something is even even barely off in a relationship, and I'm talking about off, not life is hard and sometimes it's complicated and sometimes you fight, but I'm talking about something is consistently a little bit off. Leave. Teach yourself how to be okay being lonely. Teach yourself how to be happy being alone, even if you're sometimes lonely. Because newsflash, you're also going to be lonely sometimes when you're in a relationship. Maybe more often because you're in the presence of someone who doesn't see you, which is way worse, in my opinion, than seeing yourself and just being alone. But learn how to do that, because even if you fall in love and you get to be with somebody amazing, you will have the clarity of being okay without them. And so you'll be able to just genuinely enjoy the relationship because it exists and not have it tainted by this motivation to just not be alone. Okay, rant over for now. This was another fucking banger for October. And it is called A Haunted History of Invisible Women, True Stories of America's Ghost Stories. I got this at a local ghost store, museum, shop, kind of near where I live. Super cool place. I will be back. It broke down kind of the psychology of how we view ghosts and what parts of patriarchy has influenced the way that we view female ghosts. And since I just went on a really long feminist anti-heteronormative rant, I won't break this down too much for you, but just the idea I'll read from the back. Sorrowful widows, vengeful Jezebels, innocent maidens, wronged lovers, former slaves, even the occasional ex-murderess. America's female ghosts differ widely in background, class, and circumstance. Yet one thing unites them: their ability to instill fascination and fear long after their deaths. Here are the full stories behind some of the best known among them, as well as the lesser known, though no less powerful. And then it kind of goes into what some of the ghost stories are. One, again, avoiding a complete and utter rant. Again, I gave this 5 stars. I have a lot of honestly exclusively good things to say about this book. One of the most oof, yeah, wow, I've never thought of it that way, takeaways that I had from this was the fact that, wrongly so, women are only really seen to have power after death. They are now, this version of woman is only version of woman that cisgendered men have no control over, no say in, and that they have the inarguable power over cisgendered men. It does not break that down in a hopeless way at all. I think it has a lot of important lessons in it. You don't have to be a ghost person. I mean, this is a spooky channel. My vlog is a spooky channel. I'm a creepy crawly things type of person. These are my pet tarantulas behind me. I live the macabre, you could say. But you don't have to be someone who does, or even who believes in ghosts, to get a lot out of this book, because it's just historical recountings of ghost stories. So even if you don't believe them, they're interesting stories, and they had truly important feminist takeaways that I strongly recommend. If you are someone who dabbles in ghostiness, who believes in ghosts, who enjoys ghosts, even more so, I think it's going to hit even harder for you. But basically, I just recommend it. There was some review for this. I can't find it. I think it might... Oh, I mean, right on the cover, the New York Times, which, whatever, take that with a grain of salt, but right on the cover it says this book should not only be read, but taught. Brava. And I completely agree. Another Aardvark read, which I haven't been calling out my Aardvark reads. Disappoint Me and All of Us Murderers were both from Aardvark books, which I have really, really been enjoying my subscription to them. But also, you don't have to spend money to find these books. Check out libraries, check out Pango Books. I'm sure there's resale on there. I'm just currently in a place where I'm able to do Aardvark, and at this point in time, to my current knowledge, them as a company, really cool. They're Canadian. I enjoy supporting them, and I can. So if that is also your position, I think Aardvark Books is well worth it. And I personally, as someone who has also tried Book of the Month, way prefer Aardvark. The Hounding. This was also 5 stars. It was a strong month, okay? I loved this. This is one that for some reason I kept talking myself out of. I would look on Aardvark and be like, no. I don't know. And I'm so glad that I read it. This had mixed reviews on Storygraph, And I personally don't know why. I mean, preference is preference, that's why. But I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was a little weird, and I think it had to be for what the story that it was trying to tell. This is about even before the rumors about the Mansfield girls begin, Little Nettlebed is a village steeped in the uncanny, from strange creatures that wash up on the riverbank to portentous ravens gathering on the roofs of people about to die. But when the villagers start to hear barking and one claims to see the Mansfield sisters transform before his very eyes, the allegations spark fascination and fear like nothing has before. The truth is that though the inhabitants of Little Nettlebed have never much liked the Mansfield girls, a little odd think some. Wait, I've never much liked the Mansfield girls. A little odd think some. A little high on themselves, perhaps. They've always been plenty. There's always been plenty to say about them. I can't read. As the rotating and frequently conflicting perspectives of 5 villagers quickly make clear, now is no exception. Even if local belief in witchcraft is waning, an aversion to difference is as widespread as ever, and these narratives all point to the same ultimate conclusion: something isn't right in Little Nettlebed, and the sisters will be the ones to pay for it. A richly atmospheric parable of the pleasures and perils of female defiance, The Hounding considers whether in any age it might be safer to be a dog than an unusual young girl. There's a little bit of a theme in my 5 stars. I like books that see men clearly. I like books that see cisgendered men clearly and are not afraid to point it out. This one did that in a really atmospheric way that I would borderline call this an accidental Beauty and the Beast feminist retelling. It has that the village has identified these particular people as pariahs, and the reasoning, at least in this case, is sexism. These women are strange little weirdos. They're kind of reclusive. They like to do their own thing. Their primary sin in the book is not really talking to cisgendered men whenever those cisgendered men want to talk to them. And thus they must be werewolves. They must turn into animals in the night and destroy everything because God forbid they just fucking hate you. God forbid they just want to play fucking marbles in their yard and read their little books and take care of their sickly little family member and not need you. It was written in a way where if this were made into a movie that were sort of moody, filmed in Scotland, would be great with a cup of tea on a dark, cold evening type of way, I would be so into it. And as a book, I was so into it. Thought the grandfather was pretty interesting. Loved the creepy little girls. There's of course just a sweet, soft-hearted little boy. I think he's a little boy and not a little man. Pretty sure he's young. I read this one like the first of the month, so the details, they're foggy. But there's a sweet little village boy who's like, I mean, I think they're like kind of chill. They're just kind of doing their thing. I think they're kind of cool, you guys. And of course, he's not a man because he's not mad. And so he kind of gets dunked on, and it's resolved very interestingly, very beautifully. I recommend it. I think it's really an amazing book. Bitch! Okay. This was so good. This was so fucking good. This book was so good, you guys. Okay. I read this in October. It was another one where I was just having a hard time making myself read it. Whenever I got it, also from Aardvark, I just kept circling this book like, I know I need to read that book, but I just don't feel like it. I know I need to read that book, but I just don't feel like it. And let me tell you something, this was so good. This was such a good book. I loved it. Didn't know what to expect. It was my first Chuck Tingle book. I'm not yet the type of reader that's like, I like this author and I wait for this author. I don't go about my reading in a very structured or intellectual way. It's very, that looks cool. But that being said, I'll be looking out for old Chuck here. I expected a little cheesy, a little campy, a little maybe too zany, too topsy-turvy for it to be compelling in any way. And let me tell you, this hit. This slapped. This was easily a 5-star read for me. I consumed this book so fast, could not put it down. The dynamic between the two leads, I will not spoil it, but the way this book was resolved between them was the only good way it could have been resolved between them, in my opinion. It was so good. It was so good, and honestly, describing what I loved about it would be so far into spoiler territory that even though this is definitely not a spoiler-free place, I don't want to totally reveal any twists or anything either. But basically, Agent Lane is skeptical little gay man in some semblance of a police force, but a police force with no rules, because this crazy event occurred, this fully improbable event occurred that just absolutely obliterated a big part of the country and a lot of the world. The lead, I believe her name is Vera, lost a lot of friends and her mother on that day, and lost her relationship because even though her lesbian lover, her partner, did survive the crazy little catastrophic improbable event, it just obliterated Vera's, I don't think that's her name, the lead character. It obliterated her whole soul and her whole being, and she became extremely nihilistic, reclusive, would not return calls, would not take the trash out, like truly life doesn't matter type of a mindset. Agent Lane kicks her door in and says, too bad, you're gonna help us solve what happened here, because you, as someone who is professionally good at probability, you're the one who can help us figure out why this improbable event occurred. So she's kind of like thrust into having to figure it out. There were it's a horror. It's a horror. There were parts where I was just like nauseated emotionally. Like the loss of specific things. There is a cat that dies, and I could cry thinking about it. I wanted to vomit. It made me so sad. So it was sort of not the gruesomeness of the deaths that got me, and I think Chuck did that on purpose. It was the attachment you made to them, and then the fact that they were just gone. Like, you started feeling this hopelessness that the lead was feeling. And the relationship between Lane and our lead was super interesting to witness. He's got some shady stuff she starts to figure out. She ultimately does figure it out. His shady stuff starts to impact some stuff with her. I won't spoil it because I thought it was so fucking good, so genius, so amazing. But that culminates into some shit, and she ends up basically harnessing her nihilism as a strength and then using it to help herself grow and to improve the world in a way that I just found so fucking satisfying, and I was really proud of her. So yeah, another 5-star. Truly cannot recommend that enough if you are someone who likes horror and is okay with violence. I'm not really a slasher person. Generally, I will read some of them, but and so though it was very violent, I would not in any way classify this as a slasher. It was like a thing to figure out, not sci-fi, but some like elements to this that like flirted with sci-fi as to why it was happening. And I'm not a big sci-fi person, but that was totally fine with me. Yeah, it was good. It was really, really good. It was really, really good. So that's the end of the hard copy, I own them books. Now on to the Kobo reads and the audiobooks. October was stacked. This is gonna be such a long video. Truly just did not realize how much I consumed books this month. Okay, so I'm referencing my, can you see? I'm referencing my Storygraph stats here. I finished How to Steal Your Own Fate. It just wasn't, hi baby. It just wasn't for me. It just wasn't for me. I don't even remember, oh, I rated it 3.5. How to Steal Your Own Fate. I rated How to Steal Your Own Fate a 3.5. This was an audiobook, and I don't retain audiobooks very well in certain cases. Certain types of book with certain pacing just don't register. So I actually don't remember a lot about How to Steal Your Fate. But I guess I liked it enough to give it a 3.5, so yep, don't even remember what it was about. Kind of useless on that one, aren't I? An audiobook that I definitely remember, I gave it 5 stars, it hit so fucking hard, was The Compound, and that surprised the hell out of me. But the time when I picked up The Compound, I was like picking up a book, I can't do it, picking up a different book, I can't do it. And I hate that because reading is like my favorite thing to do. My library happened to have The Compound available for audiobook right away. So I was like, I had a bunch of chores to do and I was like, that's it. I'm just gonna put it on, lock in and do my chores. And if I don't love it, or if it doesn't hold my attention, like who cares? This is just to help me do chores. One thing about me, as a little child, I saw Lucy Boynton in ballet shoes. I believe it was ballet shoes. No, wait. It might have been Miss Potter because she's younger in that. As a little kid, whichever one I saw first, I don't know, but I had such a crush on Lucy Boynton in both ballet shoes and in Miss Potter. I remember her drawing in Miss Potter and like chasing the little rabbit, and I was just like, she's so cute, it's so weird, and I want to kiss her little self. I was her age. As an adult, I think she is a boss. I think she's so cool. Hollywood's a mess. I love her as of now, according to my knowledge, unless of course there's some shit I should know. That means I should not love her, you know? But right now, Lucy Boynton, I so respect the way that she conducts herself and the way she chooses roles. So because I was in such a shitty like mental place, I still, even though she's not on my celebrity crush list, I just objectively think Lucy Boynton is really cool and I love watching her. And so to be in that shitty mental headspace and then to have the audiobook start and it's Lucy Boynton as the reader, I was like, that's what I needed to like shake me out of this funk. And so I was already like much more primed to pay attention. So the plot is, it's a kind of reality TV show situation where a handful of women and a handful of men will come onto this show. The men have to like do some masculine shit, like hike to the compound, and if they don't make it there, they're cut from the show or whatever. The women just show up and wait for the men. It was a kind of dystopian-y feminist take on a reality show in this book, and I ate that shit up. I loved it. You start out with whatever is in the compound when the previous tenants left it, and in their case there wasn't a lot. They were basically camping. The compound was very exposed to the elements. They only had so much food, and so it's kind of a take on a survivalist reality show and a dating show at the same time. And the rules of the game are, if a male and a female are not paired together sleeping in the same bed by the end of that night, then the remaining person who is uncoupled gets sent home. The reason you want to be at the compound is, though kind of in a Hunger Games-y way, you have sponsors, so you will be assigned secret tasks. If you fulfill those secret tasks, then you get items that you need either to improve your stay at the compound or to improve the compound specifically. And of course it's a whole brand deal situation. You're supposed to thank the brand and whatever. The main character, who I just view as Lucy Boynton, so I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember the main character's name at all because I was just like, Lucy, I like Lucy, and that's what stuck for me. So our main character, Lucy Boynton, who did not write the book and is simply reading it, and I'm giving a lot of credit here because I think she's great. She is the stereotypical attractive blonde girl, and there are a few of those there, and it's just not dissimilar actually to Disappoint Me, where there's a lot more plot happening, specific plot happening in this than there is Disappoint Me, obviously, because it's a created game show. But it was a lot of her internal processing of the way she allows herself to be treated and viewed, and how you hold up femininity against masculinity, and it's viewed in these specific ways, and how that gets rewarded. And in this show, that's a very tangible thing. The reasons that femininity gets rewarded versus the reasons masculinity gets rewarded. And what happens to people when you put them in a situation like this where they all have to survive together and depend on one another, whether or not they like each other. And it was just all these really kind of complex, interesting, dystopian, feminist, anti-capitalist observations rolled into this fascinating game show. There's these really beautiful kind of sapphic feeling dynamics with her and some characters, that it's like in different circumstances maybe this would be romance, and then she ends up falling in love with this guy and he ends up getting kicked off the show before her, and so but she chooses that, like he's like, leave with me, and she chooses herself, which is really cool. And so he goes home without her and she wins. She does the thing and she wins, and then she chooses to go back to him because she wants to, but first she took care of herself and fulfilled her own goals, and also did a lot of reflecting on like, was it worth it? And did I conduct myself in a way I can be proud of? And just a lot of introspection and internal dialogue that I found really important and interesting. And yeah, I absolutely loved it. It's one I would listen to again. It was so freaking good. I loved it. Clearly 5 stars. This actually was not an Audible book at all, or a Kobo book. This is a book I've had since I was a wee child, and I'm rereading through the whole series, and I wasn't going to talk about it, but you know what? I read it in October, and I love them so much. I don't care that they're for little children. I'm going to show you. I am rereading through the Jedi Apprentice series, which was canon until Disney fucked it up. And so guess what, Disney? It's canon. It's fucking canon. Usnavi agrees. You heard him. I know. Shut up. I love this series. I have reread this series more times than I can count, and it actually does have some sort of one-off stories at the end of it when he's older that are less for kids, and then there are also some other ones that branched off of those that are by a different author that are very much adult. So kind of is a series that grew up, if you like followed along with who was doing what, because it's not all by the same author, but it is all connected to the same world, and like she invented characters that made it into other authors' stories even though they are not in the movies. And so this is canon. Suck my fucking ass. But these are so good and I recommend them, and I will give every single one of them 5 stars, and I love them so much. It's just Obi-Wan and his Padawanship with Qui-Gon, and it's listen, it's perfect. If you love Obi-Wan, if you love Qui-Gon, it's fucking perfect. I love it. My brother and I have quotes and references and inside jokes about these stories out the actual ass. And I don't care if you're 47 years old. If you like Star Wars, this is very good. And if you hate the prequels, literally get away from me. Literally unsubscribe and get away from me. I say with 0 subscribers. But like, truly, love. Okay, and then back to our regularly scheduled programming. I read, oh yeah, I listened to Killers of a Certain Age. Can you see it? Probably not. It's this one. I loved it. I had a great time. I give it 3.75 stars, just because it was popcorn. It was just a little popcorn read, nothing crazy, but I'm kind of a sucker for like a horror featuring old people. I love the like elderly women going ham trope. I think it's so good, and I'm never gonna say no to that. So yeah, I thought it was really, really fun. I think that was all that I finished in October. I'm currently still reading through Son of a Witch, which I started in October. I'm currently reading through a book I may or may not even talk about because it's not really for entertainment purposes, even though I love it very much. It's just about how to sing musical theater. So for me, it's homework, really. Yeah, started those 2 in October, and that's it. Not done with them yet. So there you go. That was my rather lengthy October read. I'm very curious how November will compare in girth. But I'm actually gonna go to a cafe and read a little bit more right now. So I will see you, I don't know when. I just started this channel completely on impulse. So what will the structure be? How often? I don't know. But when I do know, I'll tell you.
Bye bye, baby book readers.